Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deeper seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Evening, hi, it's Jim here. Welcome to our latest Edexcel A-Level live revision session. We're getting ready for paper 3 on Wednesday morning, and I'm joined by Graham tonight. Graham, how you doing, mate?
All right, Jim, are you well?
Yeah, good. Well, we've got, a day and a half, haven't we, until paper 3 for Edexcel. I suppose that gives
Yeah.
us a bit of time to get some more revision in tomorrow. But what we thought we'd do in this session is do a, half an hour or so of warm-up, looking at exam technique, not for every type of question. I think we're going to look at a couple of questions based
Yeah.
around the paper 3 pre-release, but also take a quick look at one or two key themes that might appear in the paper. We've no idea. Is that a fair summary of what we're going to do, Graham? What's the plan?
It's a very fair summary, but there's a few comments in the chat window. Is this suitable for AQA? Absolutely not, because
No.
the questions we're going to look at are bespoke to Edexcel, a completely different exam technique. So if you were an AQA student, I would not be taking part because it's not going to be relevant. But we're not going to look at
session tomorrow morning, haven't we? 10:30 tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow.
So, yeah.
10:30 tomorrow morning, yeah. So, we're going to do a little bit of exam technique. I've had a go at a couple of questions, Jim. So we'll see what everyone thinks of my answers. I mean, I've wrote them, to be fair.
Yep.
So, but so that needs to be treated with caution. We're just going to look at some exam technique. Should we get started? Because we've got nearly 500 people joining us, haven't we?
Yeah, good stuff. Here we go.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. So as we know, paper 3, investigating business in a competitive environment, is based around a pre-release research theme. So on screen, you can see elements of the pre-release research theme. It's about the UK car industry and the businesses that operate in it. And you've been given a list of bullet points that you perhaps should have looked at, maybe done a little bit of research. But as I mentioned in the cinema workshops, I think the best approach is to look at certain topics and think, can I apply these to the car industry rather than getting bogged down in researching everything about Nissan or Tesla or GLR. So we've got things like current trends in the UK car market, the markets and competitive environment. We've got resource management, managing people in the car industry, entrepreneurs and leaders. We're going to look at that tomorrow night, and global and external influences on the UK car industry. So, yes, the paper is indeed, it is about the UK car industry. So lots of questions already in the chat window. Is it about the car market? It is indeed. It's about the UK car industry. Okay, next slide, please, Jim. So, before we start, bear in mind, we've only got a day and a half. What I'd like you to do is, can you think of any key challenge facing the UK car industry? So there are lots there. Can you think of one? So any key challenges that are facing the UK car industry? So this would be some useful background information to go into the exam with, to give you some familiarization with the pre-release. Should we start the music? Because there's some great answers coming in already.
Yeah, I'll just hang on. I'll just make a bit of space to put some answers on the screen. Yeah, why don't we start the music as well? Here we go. Yeah.
Great word, that. Frictionless tariffs. Combustion engines. Wow. There's a word you don't say that often. Combustion. Yeah, the 2030 ban on selling petrol, or new petrol and diesel cars. Remember, it's new cars. So it's only new cars. The semiconductor shortage. So we've got some analysis there. There was something really interesting about the cost of living crisis. Again, rising interest rates. A lot of new cars are bought on finance. So there could be an issue with rising interest rates there. Lewis Hughes has mentioned the B word there, Brexit. Labour shortage, such as Brexit, making it harder for EU employees. We've got the microchip shortages. Okay, so we've got cost of living crisis, so demand will be lower. Yes, that is true. Remember, in an exam, if that was up, you need to explain how and why. It would lead to lower demand, or the quantity demanded for new cars.
Quite a few coming in, aren't there? I'll just stick a few more on the screen.
Loads are coming. Loads coming through.
Typing
Loads coming through.
I've just noticed that is your laptop screen being glinted at by the sun? It looks like you've got a little bit of reflection on there. I don't know whether it's me, whether it's. Oh, there we go. That's better. I think the live chat audience will say. Here. Yeah, it's sunny here as well until the thunderstorms arrive. Well done, mate.
Is that better?
That's perfect, mate. Yeah, Jake's mentioned an economic factor impacting demand, supply and demand, for not just for used cars but also for new cars. Jack's making a really interesting point around this is a big issue, isn't it, in terms of electric cars? It's one thing having an electric car, but it's another thing, can you charge it, in particular if you're on a long journey? So it's sort of an infrastructure issue.
So it's good to see we're familiar with some of the key issues, fluctuation of exchange rates. Remember, exchange rates, I believe, I've not seen the paper, but I believe it was examined on paper 2. Doesn't mean it couldn't come up on paper 3. It's perfectly relevant for, most cars manufactured in the UK are exported to Europe. We've got a shortage in mechanics, so we've got lots of information there.
Good stuff.
Change online. That's a really interesting one. The change in online car dealers, likes of Kazoo and Cinch, has disrupted the traditional car dealership market. So there are issues around there. I think we've got lots and lots of understanding there. Should we just pick up on some of the key ones that we've come up with? So I think everyone's been mentioned, Jim, to be fair. So we've got Brexit, which has obviously created uncertainty. We've got additional costs, and someone mentioned in the chat window about tariffs and customs and regulations. We mentioned the cost of living crisis. So we have economic uncertainty, rising interest rates. Remember, most new cars are bought on finance. So that could impact on the cost of a car and the quantity demanded. That would depend on the type of car, of course. There's an impact on capacity utilisation. I do believe that the UK car industry is operating on around about 60% capacity utilisation at the moment. So we've got electric vehicles, with the government announcing the ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars, pushing. So we've got some push factors there, pushing businesses to electrify vehicles. So there is some, it's not about topic. It's not about trying to predict the questions, but it's about thinking, if a topic comes up, can I relate it to the car industry? So I was reading about Lotus thinking of floating on the stock market in order to finance their move to electric cars. So there could be something around sources of finance. Is 60% considered very low, Jake? I'm assuming you mean capacity utilization. Yeah, for the car industry, it's the lowest it's been for a long time.
I've always assumed they're in the 80s, mid 80s, to get the
Mid
unit costs
80s,
at the
yeah,
right
but
level.
yeah. So obviously, remember most questions apart from the 20 markers on paper 3 will be assessed questions. So you need some balance. So it could be a question about assess the impact of low capacity utilization on a business such as Nissan. So you'd have to maybe see a positive impact, a negative impact, because low capacity utilization does bring some benefits. Remember, it's about balance. Next slide, please, Jim. Shall we look at some of the others? We've got environmental regulations, which ties in about the government's drive, if you pardon the pun, to ban the sale of petrol and diesel cars. We've talked about online sales and competition. That was also mentioned in the chat window. Lucy, you're talking about the structure rate markers. We're going to look at one of those shortly. And we've got labour shortages. So I think there's enough on those slides. If you've done no research whatsoever, what we've just come through is a sort of flavour of what's happening in the UK car industry. Daisy asking now, what would be a positive impact of low capacity utilisation? Well, it could be that, if you're working, there could be more time spent on quality. It depends on the business, really. Some car manufacturers, still makes parts of the car handmade. So low capacity utilisation could mean workers more time to spend on the quality of the cars. Maybe more time for training, maybe more time for quality assurance and quality control. So there is some benefits to low capacity utilisation, lots of negatives, but it's about producing a balanced response. So, Alison, is this focus? It's the UK car industry and the businesses operating in it. Now, obviously, it's not just about UK. It's not about, car manufacturers that are owned by UK companies. It's any business that operates in the UK could be examined. Jaguar Land Rover, Nissan, Aston Martin. Remember, it could be Halfords, it could be a local car wash, anything to do with businesses in the car industry. It's so broad. So that's why I think just having an overview of some of these key issues and thinking as you go into your final hours of revision, if a topic like capacity utilization came up in the exam, can I apply it to the UK car industry rather than spending all tomorrow researching everything about Tesla? Because remember, all you need to do is be applying your answers to the extracts in the paper. If you can bring in any additional research, fair enough, but you won't be penalised if you don't. That's for sure.
That's a key point. I know in the live chat, people have been asking, do you have to have done research to be able to access the highest levels of the mark schemes? What's your response to that?
Well, you can, some students do bring in evidence of their own research, but you can get full marks without using any research you've done, because every question you get will be related to an extract in the paper. So you could bring something in, but you won't be penalised if you don't. Not at all. There's nothing in the descriptor levels to say you have to be bringing in your own research.
Excellent. So it's all about the extract.
Yeah, that's what saying. Shafi's there saying it's a good point. Knowing the market doesn't hurt, and it doesn't. Going in, having some awareness. That is the way. Shafi, I couldn't have put that better myself. Having an awareness of the market and the industry doesn't hurt, and it's certainly useful to go in with. Okay. Now, Rick Riston, is it bad to solely rely on the research and avoid the case? You've got to apply your answers to the extract, because every question will relate to an extract. You can't ignore the extract. You must relate every question to get the application marks to the extract you're being asked about. Okay, so I think we've covered that now. I think we've been really crystal clear on that.
Too right.
Good stuff.
Right.
We've been crystal clear.
Talking of extracts,
okay,
I think we've got two tonight.
Yeah, here we go.
How should we play?
We've got two,
take us through the extract, Graham, and then we'll set the question. And I guess we could maybe encourage in the live chat some possible lines of argument, some possible points, and then you can take us through a worked answer.
Defo. So on screen, you can see an extract that we've written on GLR, Jaguar Land Rover. And remember, in paper 3, there will be 2 8-mark questions, one in section A, one in section B. There are no 4-mark questions in paper 3. They've been replaced by the 8-marker. And the 8-mark question will always, 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 always ask you to assess 2 Always. That could be assess to benefits, assess to downsides, assess to consequences. It will always say assess to. Now, you do not need a judgment at the end, a supported judgment. We've done lots of live streams over the past few weeks where we've talked about 8-mark questions. You do not need a conclusion at the end, but you must provide balancing points to each argument. So in a question such as this, you would need to analyse a benefit to GLR of using more quality circles, and then you'd need to balance that with a however argument. Then you would need to do that again to make sure you fully assess to benefits. So we've chosen quality circles because I talked about quality circles last week and a lot of students went, oh, I can't remember anything about quality circles. So here we go. So this is in response to a live stream last week. So Jaguar Land Rover, and this is all true information, has recently suffered from quality issues. It was ranked last in a quality study among luxury brands, with the study finding that, on average, 175 problems per 100 vehicles was found. I mean, that is a phenomenal quality issues. So in order to address that, GLR is looking at increasing its investment in quality circles. So it obviously uses quality circles. It's going to use more quality circles. So it's been using them for many years in order to improve quality. That's why it's going to increase its investment. The company is providing more training for employees on how to participate in quality circles, and is also providing more resources to support quality circles. Now, remember, in the pre-release research theme, it specifically talks about resource management. Quality is an integral part of that part of the specification. So maybe in the chat window, maybe try and come up with maybe a benefit or two of using quality circles to Jaguar. So this might answer some of your questions when you said earlier, someone said earlier about, do I completely ignore, can I ignore the extract and just no, because the question will say, it will relate to a specific extract in the paper. So we've got one benefit is that will allow them to help identify the quality issues and then solve them as a team. That's a good point. Yeah, you'll develop that further. So there's a recognition and understanding there of quality circles. Good. Remember, you wouldn't need to define quality circles at the start of you could do, but you do not need to define what quality circles are at the start of your response. Of course, there's no problem to do that, but you can get your knowledge and understanding marks through the body of your response. That's a really good point there. Encourages teamwork, enabling them to meet up and discuss improvements in quality. So already there's an understanding there of quality circles without a definition. And that's all you need. So in quality, which they've suffered having an average, so there's some really, really good application there. What about our balancing point? So maybe let's flip it a bit. So we've got one benefit there. So someone's talking about increased motivation and increased productivity. Let's flip that. So what could be? Why might we have reservations about using quality circles? That's a good use of language. Why might we have some reservations of what could the impact be? What could be a negative of using quality circles to GLR? What do we think? That's a fair enough point. Yeah, it could do that. So, again, it comes from an understanding of what quality circles are. Remember, quality circles, you're talking about an average of 5 to 10. That's a good point, Charlie. 5 to 10 workers drawn from completely different areas of the business, completely different areas. Maybe meeting once a week, once a month. So there could be some impacts there. Yeah, that's a good point as well. Quality circles may not be able to fix the problems. They may not be able to fix the problems. Some really, really good points. Now, so remember, just to sort of recap before I take you through your suggested answer, it's always assessed to. So in this case, you would need to provide an analytical benefit in relation to quality circles. And then you would balance that with, however, you would need to do that twice. Do not do a supported judgment at the end. It is definitely not needed. And some students at the workshops are saying, well, I'm just going to write one just in case. There's no marks available for supported judgment. So it's your time spent better else. Where? So there's a good point there. I would just end on Ben's point. The quality depends on employees. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whether they're good or not depends. It's a really, really good point. Now, I've had a go at typing out an answer. Now, bear in mind, I did this not under exam conditions, Jim.
No, I know.
I just, I had to go. So don't look at it and go, oh, well, could I write that in 8 minutes, 10 minutes?
We'll be fair. Just picking up on Ben's point, are you writing about quality curly cues or quality circles, Graham, in your response?
Yeah. Well, I think there needs to be a quality circle to check the quality of that word there. Okay, should we have a quick look at so first of all, we need to assess one benefit. So remember, the first benefit we're going to look at is improved quality, and we need to balance that. So if we look at how we've started this, how I've started this, I've got straight to the point. One benefit is improved quality, and I'm straight into some application. So JLR has recently suffered from quality issues, which may impact on their reputation. Introducing more quality circles. So there's a recognition there that I've read the question. It's not about introducing quality circles. It's about more quality circles. So I've recognized the hook in the question. It's using more quality circles. May result, so that's a good use of language, in improved quality because quality circles bring together more employees of JLR from different departments who will have different experiences and perspectives, such as workers on the assembly line. So remember, I've not defined quality circles here, but I've shown my understanding that quality circles brings together people from across the organisation.
Yeah, that's a question a number of people are asking, including Liz, saying, "Well, if you don't start with a definition, how do you get the knowledge marks?" I suppose what you're saying it's implicit in your answer, isn't it? You're demonstrating you understand what they are by what you write.
So from that, from that paragraph there, do I understand what quality circles are? The answer to that is yes. Do I have a good knowledge and understanding of quality circles from that paragraph? Yes. So therefore, the marks are implicit in inherent. So no, you don't need a definition. You could start with a definition, but would a definition have added any value to that response? Not at all, because that third sentence, quality circles brings together more employees from different departments, is my understanding of quality circles. So then I'm going to develop that further. So bringing together more employees from different areas can help them identify and solve problems that may not be seen by workers who are only involved in one part of the car making process. More application there. Now we're going to develop that further. JLR is a luxury brand, so quality may be a key element of its competitiveness, and therefore any improvements may allow JLR to improve their reputation and compete with their rivals such as BMW and Audi. Yeah, I get that, Will. I did say, don't take this as writing this in 8 minutes, because obviously I've typed it out. I just wanted to show you the exam technique. Okay. Now, remember, we need to balance that. So we've got our however point. So, however, if managers don't correctly implement quality circles and create a culture of participation, workers may feel as though their opinions won't make a difference and are valued, resulting in low participation and a few quality issues. So we've got to build a balance there. Henry, there probably, about that much. It's not 4 chunky paragraphs. There's only a mark each for your balancing points. So really, we're just looking for evidence of balance, but we want some context in there. So as you can see, really, obviously, that's quite a detailed start. But the however points, a couple of lines, we're just balancing our argument, and that's all you need to do. So therefore, so we've not fully answered the question yet because it's assessed 2, so we have to do that again. So on screen now is we've just highlighted the application in red, so you can see the application. So you can see that the application, is throughout the answer. So we're talking about such as workers on the assembly line. There's a recognition JLR is a luxury car brand. Rather than saying compete with other car businesses, we've got some examples such as BMW and Audi, who are rivals of JLR. And in the final paragraph there, the final line, we're talking about cars. So we can see that application is throughout our answer. So is DEE good? I don't know what DEE stands for, unfortunately. Roberta, yes, I know. I did say that at the start. It's, I've typed this answer out.
Yeah, you'd write few words, wouldn't you? You'd write a lot fewer words, but it's the exam technique, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the exam technique. Yeah, it's the exam technique. I'm not saying you would write this in an exam because I've seen the question and we've wrote the case study. So we do that again. So we have a different benefit now. So we're talking about motivation. So and then we can say our balancing point. So I think a lot of students mentioned in the chat window about the motivational benefits of quality circles. So here, they may feel more empowered and valued, maybe being asked to be part of a quality circle and being given the opportunity to make decisions about their work, could lead to motivation. And now I've tied this in with, some motivational theory. This may meet the esteem needs of workers. If you get an exam question and you're right, you're going to talk about motivation, you really need to try and support that with some motivational theory. So do we know what we're referencing there when we talk about esteem needs? So being asked to be part of a quality circle and having your opinions taken on board could meet your esteem needs. Now, I don't need to mention the name of the theorist. There's an understanding that I know who it is. So, we're talking some people in the chat window there, Maslow. Perfect. So we're talking about Maslow. So, it may make them feel more connected. So, and then we're going to develop. It's no good just saying it will lead to improved motivation. We need to explain hows and the whys. What would that lead to? So, it may lead to reduced absenteeism and labour turnover, which may help them maintain labour productivity, lower their unit costs. So, you can see in how we've ended it by the investment in quality circles. So, again, someone's asking about, is DEEZ a good structure? I'm not sure what that is, but if you've been using it in the past and your teachers advise you to do that, then you just go for it. Then we got some balance there. So, no, I've mentioned it a few times now. You do not need a conclusion for an 8-mark question. So you don't need that. Again, lots of students talking about how many lines do I need to write. Now, if you go, if you on the Edexcel website, on the examiner's report, you can see sample answers. Now, some students do write that amount, some don't. I'm not saying you have to write that amount because you certainly don't. It's impossible. All you're looking for is accurate knowledge and understanding, well contextualized analysis, and balancing points. And so we've got a balancing point at the end there. So we're talking about it may not lead to motivation because workers may, resist change. Maybe, being part of a quality circle may result in, changing the way you need to work. So you can see now we've got our balance. So we've assessed both benefits. We do not need a supported judgment, and we're moving on. So although we don't need to put in a definition in the 8-marker, would we still get marks for it? Well, if you start with a definition, you're going to get the knowledge marks as long as you correctly define quality circles. But what I'm saying is, when you read that answer there, would a definition of quality circles added any value to that response? And the answer is no. So you would question why you would need to do that. But again,
just picking up a couple of technical questions coming in the live chat, Graham. I'll pick up this one. Charlie's asking, what's the difference between quality circles and cell production? Well, essentially, cell production is one method of production, isn't it? It's bringing employees in to work within a team or a matrix with different skills. It's actually a method of production compared with, say, flow production or batch production or job production. Whereas quality circles applies to whatever the production method is. It's bringing in a team of a small group, typically 5 to 10 employees with different experiences from different departments, to tackle quality issues wherever they arise, and also whatever method of production it is. So it might be an issue on the flow production line. It could be an issue with the cell production team. So quality circles is all about assuring quality, isn't it? Finding quality improvements.
Definitely. Okay, so we've touched on quality circles. Should we move on to the next one then, Jim? Should we move on to
our second extract, Halfords?
Yeah, okay, Halfords. So I was next to Halfords today, actually, would you believe? But so Halfords is the UK's leading automotive retailer. Focus around 3 core areas: retail, auto centres, and mobile experts. So people who can come out to your house or home or work and maybe change your tyre, fix your engine, things like that. So we've got a business that's really in 3 parts. Retail, that's the stores you may be familiar with, you may not be familiar with. Auto centres, garages really, their main rivals Quick Fit. And mobile experts, so people who will come out to your your homework to fix your car if you can't get your car in. Okay, now in 2022, Halfords opened more new stores and auto centres and is set to open many more over the next 5 years as part of its ambitious growth plan to take advantage of the growth in the UK automotive retail, repair and servicing market. Now, you don't really need to know what I'm going to say now, but I thought it's useful is the fact that, people are, because the cost of living crisis and people are buying less new cars, they're turning to, maintaining their existing cars. Therefore, there's been a growth in demand for retail repair and servicing as people now want to extend the life of their current vehicle rather than, purchase a new one. So that's why there's growth in this period. So we've got assess the likely impact to Halfords of its ambitious growth plan. So it's a 10-mark question. So any assessed question that's 10 or 12 marks, you need a supported judgment. So one possible structure for a question like this is a positive impact to Halfords of its ambitious growth plan, then a negative impact, and then an overall judgment. Now, remember, we discussed this last week. Your judgment needs to be more than just a repetition of what you've said previously. Yes, it has to be built on that, but you need to be adding something new in, something like maybe a new piece of context in order. And we use the words add value to add value to your judgment. So over to the chat window now and over to you. So any positive impacts or negative impacts of Halfords' decision to grow. So it's growth, it's going to be more retail stores, more auto centres. So what do we think? So I'm trying to pick out some of the key ones here. There's so much good stuff here.
If you pick them out, G, and shout out, I'll find them using the search function. I'll pick out one or two more as they come in. Lots of people typing furiously here, which is great to see.
So it may lead to, there's an argument for that, isn't there? That actually security needs may be met.
Yeah.
There could be a motivational argument there. You're part of a business that's growing. You may feel more secure. You may feel as though there's more opportunities for advancement.
Yeah.
Again, you would have to then link that and say, well, how and why does that particularly benefit Halfords? So, increase sales. So you could argue, you could bring Ansoff in there, couldn't we? We could talk about maybe market penetration. Or you could even argue market development if it's opening stores in areas it's not previously been in.
Yeah.
So some really good stuff there.
Now, I like this, Leo included, mentioning economies of scale, and Leo's going specific here, purchasing economies of scale such as window wipers. Love it.
Yeah. Now, the thing is with this question, economies and the flip side, diseconomies, is probably, remember we talked, Jim, didn't we, a few weeks about being selective, about thinking about what you're going to write before you start to write it. So economies and diseconomies of scale, really, if you'd thought about it, that probably is a really good way of accessing the higher marks for this question. So then you would need to maybe explain and analyse how they would benefit from lowering the cost of windscreen wipers. So I'm trying to
some great answers coming through here. Fantastic.
Some phenomenal answers. So we've got market development, automobile market. We've got lots about communication and diseconomies.
The overtrading
risk of overtrading.
Overtrading is interesting, wasn't it? I think it's a really nice one because the obvious answers are things like economies of scale and motivation, all that kind of stuff. But as lots of retailers find, if you grow too fast, then before you know it, you're paying your rent on a building that's not particularly profitable. The sales aren't good, and lots of retailers, in fact, retailers are the business that tend to go under because of overtrading, don't they? You have to manage your cash flow very carefully when you're opening lots of new locations.
Lots of fixed costs that need to be covered, even though when sales, remember, your fixed costs always need to be paid because they are not related to output. So we got lots and lots and lots of really, really good answers. So again, just a little caveat, we've typed this answer out, so we just wanted to show you the exam technique.
Just picking out a few more as we go. Yeah. And also quite a lot, maybe no surprise, a lot of such as seasoning appearing in the live chat. That's going to be worth using, isn't it? In addition to the other information in the extracts tomorrow.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, so we've gone down the good old economies of scale route. Now, so it's important. So what we want to demonstrate is the importance of not only application of what we call how and why, rather than saying something will lead to something will lead to something. It's really about exploring the hows and the why. So we're starting off there. We're not defining growth. We're not defining economies of scale. We're getting straight to the point. Possible positive impact is economies of scale. So then we're into our application. By opening more auto centres and retail shops, Halfords will need to order more stock. That is true. They have to order more stock. You can't have a shop with no stock, such as tyres for the auto centres and car shampoo for their retail shops. So we've got more application. It could give them greater market power. So that's a good use of, we're talking about Porter's five forces here, which may allow them to have increased buyer power, meaning they could put more pressure on their suppliers to supply the likes of car tyres and engine oil at a lower price, as they will be buying these in for bigger quantities. So there was a lot of students in the chat window, Jim, recognised that purchasing economies of scale was a benefit. It was therefore really important to make the link of how that will impact. So maybe having lower unit costs could allow Halfords to reduce their prices, such as the price of a car service or MOT, enabling them to be more price competitive. This may attract drivers, so more application away from rival businesses such as Quick Fit or local garages, allowing them to increase their market share. So remember, it's no other lines of analysis are available. It does not have to be increased sales revenue and profit. We're talking about maybe if they can offer cheaper prices due to purchasing economies of scale, that might attract drivers away from Quick Fit, therefore increase market share. So what we can see in what Jim's highlighted there in the red is our application. So we're talking about car tyres, engine oil, Quick Fit, local garages, lots of such as seasoning in there. Now, remember, it's an assess question, so we have to have balance. So therefore, what's our balancing point? Well, we're going to default to our diseconomies of scale. So there's our balance. So let's have a look at a possible line of argument here. So opening more shops and auto centres could result in Halfords suffering from diseconomies of scale. There's a recognition they already employ 10,000 people and have over 400 retail shops and 300 auto centres. So by opening even more of these, they're going to have to employ more staff. They may suffer communication, coordination, and morale issues. So, therefore, we've got some knowledge and understanding of the different types of diseconomies without defining diseconomies, at the start. And then we've sort of developed that. It may become more difficult for senior managers to communicate and coordinate across lots of locations. This may lead to reduced productivity and other inefficiencies. And we've sort of quantified that. Halfords employees may feel less valued and motivated as the business grows. So when you're in a small business, maybe you feel closer and more aligned to the business's goals. As it gets bigger, you may feel as though just a small part in a big, a small cog in a big wheel. So, and then we've developed it further. This could result in lower labour productivity, higher absenteeism, and labour turnover. And then we've developed that further. So that's a good point. So is the second point balance? So yes, we need a balanced argument. So we've argued a positive impact in this question. We've balanced it with a negative impact. And then all we now need to do is we need to come to a supported judgment. Now, remember, so does it matter if you don't write a conclusion for 10, 12, and 20? Well, it would matter, Nitro, because you can't access, full marks if you don't write a conclusion. So the secret is, remember, the 10-mark question on paper 3 would be the second question you write, because there'll be an 8-mark question, then a 10-mark question. So there'll be no need not to write a conclusion. I can only surmise you're talking about, section B. Maybe you've spent too much time on section A, but again, it's about time management. So Haroon, yes, this does need a conclusion because it's a 10-mark question. 10 and 12-mark questions need a conclusion. Yep. So let's have a look at a potential conclusion. And it's not fantastically detailed, but as we can see, it builds on what we've talked about, but adds value. So we've made a decision. We believe it's going to have a positive impact, as it could not only allow them to potentially lower their unit costs and offer lower prices, allowing them to compete more effectively with the likes of Quick Fit. So we've already said that, That's already been said. However, it's our decision. It may allow them to take full advantage of the growth in the UK automotive retail repair and servicing market, which we hadn't talked about previously. So there's some new context there, allowing them to maintain their position as the UK's leading automotive retailer. Some new context there. We didn't talk about that earlier on. It is possible that they may suffer from diseconomies of scale, but with robust planning and leadership, these could be avoided. So really what we've done is there, and if we highlight in green where our new information is, so basically we've brought in some new context to support our judgment. So our judgment is clearly built on prior analysis, it's balanced, and it adds something new. So Benji's there, what do we need to focus on writing a conclusion? Well, a few things. So really, first of all, you need to make a judgment. Will the impact be positive or negative? So you need some balance in there. We can see we've recognised that there could be a negative impact in the terms of diseconomies of scale, but we've said that these could be avoided with strong leadership and planning. We've also got some new context in there. Okay, so
Question
you can
coming
see
in from,
how.
Sorry, Graham, question coming in. A similar question from Ruby, just extending that to the 12 and 10 marker and 12 markers in terms of conclusions there.
So there's more marks to play with. So your recommendation would be far more than a simple conclusion. So yes, you would need to give more depth of evaluation in your 20 marker. So I read a source which says more students drop more marks on paper 3 in comparison to others. Well, the reason for that is a lot of students spend too long on the 8-mark questions and the 10-mark questions at the start, and then run out of time, so they don't get onto the final 20 marker. That's from the examiner's reports. If you read the examiner's reports, which are on the Edexcel website, that's a common problem, that students spend too long on the 8, 10 and 12 mark questions and then run out of time. So a lot of students, I think last year, the average mark on the 20 marker in paper 3 for the section B was around about 8 marks, I think. So, again, it's time management.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to pick up on some questions here, and some questions about MOPS. MOPS is just a technique, remember. MOPS is just a technique. You don't have to use MOPS. You won't be penalised if you don't do it. It's just one technique of many. I don't know what D's is, to be fair, but I know what MOPS is. MOPS is my decision or judgment influenced by the market, the objectives, the product or service, or the situation. So, in that last question we looked at, that Halfords one, we could have said it seems clear that maybe an objective of Halfords is to remain the UK's market leader. Therefore, growing is a necessity, because it would tie in with that. That's how you could use MOPS. Also, I just want to pick up on lots of questions, Jim, that were sort of a lot of students that can't. Because there's no 4 markers, will there be no calculations on paper 3? No. There most certainly, we can't predict, but will be some sort of calculations or quantitative skills, because they have to be assessed in every paper. So what you may find is that in the 12-mark questions or the 20-mark questions, you may have to perform a calculation as part of that and use the results of that calculation in your analysis and evaluation. So maybe in a 20-mark question, you may be given, I don't know, say a car manufacturer is considering 2 different models of cars. Maybe you might have a decision tree. Maybe you need to work out the net gain of both decisions and use those results in your evaluation. If a 20 marker involves calculation, should we short or working out? Yeah, so the way I would do that, Economies 3, is if there were calculations to be had in a 20 marker, do your calculations at the start your paper, do your calculations, show your process and you're working out, and then start your answer, but make sure you use the results of those calculations in the body of your response. Okay, you don't just ignore them. Too many students just ignore them. You must use the results of any calculation in your answer. So NPV could come up. I mean, I think NPV was examined last year, but that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, there's going to be a quantitative skills question. That's why I said creamy cracking. Yeah, there's definitely is going to be, quantitative skills have to be assessed across all 3 papers. So there will be some sort of, calculation element, usually around the 12 and the 20 mark question. So I think on a 12 mark question. So previously there was a question where students had to work out 2 methods of investment appraisal as part of a 12 mark question. 6 marks of that were for the calculations and the results of that within their answer. So if CPA comes up, will a lot of students lose marks? Not if every student answers CPA perfectly. CPA could. The thing is, with these type of things, CPA, investment appraisal, decision trees, they do all lend themselves nicely to the UK car industry because, you could have, for example, a car company about to launch a new electric car. Maybe they use critical path analysis to map out the activities of those.
Who knows? Who knows what's going to come up? We don't know. But I think you just have to be ready. What's interesting is that in those, the 8 mark and the 10 marker, where you put those answers together based on those 2 extracts, Graham, the application was just from the extract, wasn't it? It was just from the extract. So you applied your response purely from what they get given. So, and it's the same, and it's the same, isn't it, for every extract? It's there for a reason. So students that make the maximum use of what they're given in terms of the extract or a calculation that they can use in their arguments are going to max out on the application marks.
Well, if you go back a second, if I may be so bold, if you go back to the Halford's conclusion, just go up to Halford's conclusion. Now, see QuickFit. Now, if you've done some research around QuickFit, and maybe you know that they're the market leader in terms of what they do, then maybe you could have brought that in, allowing them to compete more effectively with the likes of QuickFit, who are the market leader in car repairs. So that's how you would use your own application within the answer. But remember, this question is not about QuickFit. The question is about Halfords.
Yeah.
So you can bring in your own research to supplement and support your answer, but you must relate your answer to the question in the the question in the case study. What is the point of learning about the car industry then? Well, it's to give you a focus. The question. All the questions are going to be on the UK car industry. So really, that the pre-release was issued in November, so plenty of time. So I always advocate taking a topic-based approach. So, for example, when I'm revising, I'm revising non-financial methods of motivation, and I'm thinking job rotation. If job rotation came up in paper 3. It has to be related to the car industry. So how does job rotation fit into the car industry? Well, you could argue, on the production line, maybe at Nissan, 1 week the workers fit the doors, the next week they do the engines. So that's why the pre-release is there. Jim, I'm getting a lot of flack here for not letting you for this perception that I'm not letting you speak. So,
I get paid by the word. We use a Taylor approach here, don't we? And I get paid by the word. And I'm not one to say too many things. So don't worry about that, G. I'm enjoying the session. It's really useful. Really useful. I'll get to have my say.
And then Jim spoke.
Hey, look, we've done 45 minutes. Have we got time for maybe one or more questions?
I'm just picking there. So, is the structure the same for a 20 mark if there's a calculation? Absolutely. So, say for example, we can't predict the future. So, say for example, there was a business thinking about launching car A or car B. Say it was something like that. And there's a decision tree there with the probabilities and the expected outcomes of car A and car B. Should it do this type of car? Should it do that type of car? Then you could use your calculations to work out, the net gain of both options and say, well, actually, one reason why they should follow this option is this. So that's how you would use your calculations within a 20 marker. Okay. So,
and it lends itself, as you say, doesn't it, to decision trees, investment appraisal, which is classic manufacturing issues, isn't it? Do you invest in a new model or a new factory, building a new factory somewhere, launching a new electric car? Decision trees, you've got two options. Which is the best option and why?
Yeah.
It lends itself. It lends itself to this, but it's
Well,
it's not just the calculations, is it? It's then how you apply the data from the calculations that you've done to support your judgment and your
yeah,
points.
yeah, and also just I think there's a lot of students getting a little bit concerned. Obviously, we've got a lot of exams and the importance of the exams about calculations as part of paper 3. Now, it might be 2018. I could be wrong. There was an 8-mark question where it specifically said in the question using data from Appendix A, and I think that was it might have been market share information. I don't know. But because it said using data from Appendix A, there was an expectancy within your answer. There was no calculations to make, but there was an expectancy when you look at the mark scheme that students would use information from that, from that data within their answer. So if it says in your question using data from Appendix A or Extract A, and it specifically references it, you must pull out some information that to support your answer.
Yeah,
Surely you're right, Les. Absolutely, that's taken into account.
Yeah,
You can't be expected to work out, say, average rate of return and net present value. The time it takes to do that, that is taken into account. That's why the calculations form some of the marks.
Question coming in from Sterling about whether some part or one part of the paper might not be car related. Well, it's the theme, isn't it, for the whole paper, and also that you're looking good grade, which we can't argue with.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Sterling. That's a sterling comment there, if you pardon the pun. Well, I've noticed a pattern in the past papers. Well, I'd be interested in what your thoughts are on that pattern, because I haven't. Because every question has related to the pre-release. Now, remember, the UK car industry and the businesses operate in it. It doesn't have to be car manufacturing. It could be, tomorrow we're going to look at Waves tomorrow, which is the leading car wash franchise, making waves across the country. So that's part of the UK car industry. You could have a mobile car mechanic. You could have someone who makes car mats or different types of polishers. It can if it's about UK businesses in the UK car industry, it's fair game. Who would win in a scrap? Just curious. And Jim would never fall out, would we, Jim?
Never.
We'd never fall out, but it would be me. So does this paper count for if you got your calculations wrong but use them in your answer? Yeah, absolutely. So there was someone messaged us direct on Instagram about that. Remember, follow us on Tutor to Your Business Instagram. If you get the calculations wrong, then there'll be marks attributed to those calculations. But then if you go on to analyze using your analysis is sound based on those wrong calculations, it's already been taken into account the fact you didn't get the calculations right. So don't.
You can't get penalised twice, can you? You can't get
penalised twice. It's got own figure rule. So just Jacob, I am 6'6" actually. So on 8 markers. Do you need a counterpoint? Yeah. So basically, you do need 2 counter arguments, balancing points. We're going to look at that in more detail at 5 o'clock tomorrow. There was one other question. I'm just trying to find it here. Isaac, we're going to do a couple more questions tomorrow, Isaac. We're going to do. I've not written answers out like we have there, but we're going to look at some. We're going to look at some questions. So we're going to do tomorrow, off the top of my head, entrepreneur to leader, franchising. But really, it's not about the topics we do. It's the it's the technique. So I'm just trying to pick up on. Is it a good idea to write fast? It's a mark a minute, really. A mark a minute. I do a QA business. Will any of this be relevant? Well,
no.
No. No. I don't. We don't like to say anything negative, do we, Jim? But no, not relevant at all.
In terms of
can we give our opinion?
Graham. Just ask. A number of people have asked timings tomorrow. Edexcel, the stream's at 5 p.m, so it'll be about 45 minutes to an hour. Bit of revision, some more. Another question or two, plus a final chance for Q&A.
Okay.
Tomorrow there's 2 AQA ones. There's one in the morning where with a new case study, just going through that, and then in the evening, 6:30, I think, isn't it? 6:30 for AQA.
Yeah. Can we bring up Ray's point there? We'll end on Ray if we may.
Okay, there we go.
I'm a port there and I don't even know it. 8 markers, it says explore 2 benefits. Well, it's always assess. So assess 2 benefits, and I don't have a counterbalance. Can I just now? The thing is, the 8 mark questions appear first in each section. So really, there's really no excuse not to do that, because they're the first 8 marks. The first question you're gonna encounter. So really, there's no excuse really for not doing balancing arguments, because you're going to encounter those first. But in answer to your question, and I don't have a counterbalance, can I just argue that one is more beneficial? Well, the question would be, say it's assess 2 benefits. You're not comparing each benefit, because there's no supported judgment at the end. You have to say one benefit is and why it might not be a benefit, another benefit is and why it might not be a benefit, because there's no conclusion. So if it was assess a benefit, that's different. If it was just assess one benefit, because then you'd have in a 10 marker why it's a benefit, why it's not a benefit, and a conclusion. 8 marker questions. Argument for, argument, or however, do that twice. If it is, assess the benefits. But, and I'll end on this, if it's assess the 2 consequences, remember consequences can be positive or negative. So they need to be treated slightly differently. So if it's assess 2 consequences, you could say a positive consequence is, however, and balance that. Then your next point could be a negative consequence is, and however. Okay, so remember, the format is for every 8 mark question, you must have 2 detailed analytical paragraphs and 2 balancing points. Can we put Krishna up there, because Krishna's been very, very patient, and I've seen this appear 4 or 5 times. Can we give our opinion if no time for a conclusion? So in terms of, ultimately, your evaluation is a supported opinion, really. So I believe that, Halford's ambitious growth plans will have a positive effect. Where it strays away from opinion is justifying why, and then you're backing it up with some judgment. So really, your evaluation is your opinion, but it has to be supported. Otherwise, it's just an assertion. The secret there, Krishna, is just to be really tight on your time management. Make sure you leave time for a conclusion. Now, a lot of students are writing, the 8 mark that we put up in the 10 mark questions. We did write a lot there, but there were only a couple of paragraphs. Some students for the 20 markers are writing 5, 6, and 7 paragraphs, and therefore struggling on the second part of the paper. So just make sure your exam technique is absolutely on point, and you'll absolutely smash it. Yep. So
we're done, mate. That's it.
We're done. We've done an hour, haven't we? We've done an hour. We've done an hour.
And it's hot, isn't it? It's hot outside, so a chance to get out, maybe get some fresh air. It's important to stay hydrated and get lots of fresh air, as well as doing a bit of revision. So hopefully you found this session useful. It's being recorded as well, so you'll be able to go over those 2 example questions and the worked answers in the exam technique, if you wish, in your own time. So as we mentioned, we've got another Edexcel live stream tomorrow afternoon, 5 p.m, a chance to do a little bit more light revision, and another question also, chance to also ask some questions before the final evening of revision, before it all ends for A-Level Business for another year, and for you, for good. Hopefully tonight goes well, and your revision goes well during the day. We look forward to catching you live tomorrow at 5 p.m. A big thanks to Graham. Are you doing anything exciting tonight, Graham, or just putting your feet up?
I'm going to relax and do a bit of exercise while doing some paper 3 research by washing the car.
There we go. Nice one. Are you using car shampoo and conditioner, or just car shampoo?
I'm using just a car shampoo, a conditioner, then I might do a little bit of threading after.
On that note, thanks everyone. Great to see you. And we'll look forward to catching you tomorrow. So cheers from us both.